Something strange is happening to millions of people. They are quietly losing interest in everything. I'm 65 and I'm one of them. Christmas doesn't feel quite the same. Holidays don't create the same excitement as they once did. I don't care about having the latest phone or the latest car or the latest of anything. I don't even look forward to going out and socialising anymore. I've lost interest in most hobbies that I once loved. I keep asking myself, why don't I enjoy these things that I used to? For example, I used to love horse racing and golf, eating out at nice restaurants, travelling all over the world, and particularly buying cars. I think I'm asking the wrong question. The better question is, what do I enjoy now and why? When you're young, life is full of firsts. Your first girlfriend or boyfriend, and that was Jean, by the way, for me at 15 years old. Your first car, mine was a Mini, bought in 1978 at 17 years old. Your first holiday without your parents, the Norfolk Broads at 18, with 5 of my best mates on a motor launch, the first booze cruise. And then there's your first home. Mine was a nice little semi-detached bungalow in the same village where my mum and dad lived. And who can forget your first proper job? Mine was a trainee manager for a finance company and I got sacked after 3 months. Yep, back then everything feels new and life is just so exciting. But by the time you reach 60, well, you've seen a hell of a lot of life. You've had a few promotions. You've bought dozens of cars, 38 to be precise. You've moved house a few times. 4, I think, 5 maybe. You've been on loads of holidays all over the world. And you've filled the loft with crap and the garage and every cupboard in your now much bigger house. That thrill of more doesn't last very long if it exists at all. I didn't suddenly lose interest at 60 or 50. It was a gradual change that had begun when I was 40. Now, at first, I just became fed up with the rat race. That's why I quit my business at 44. And you know what? I never worked a full-time job ever again. And by 50, well, I wasn't interested in buying any more stuff, especially cars, and that was strange for me. And then I noticed something else. From the age of 55, I started to prefer solitude and staying at home rather than getting out there and socialising. At first, I was worried that I was losing my enthusiasm for life. But the change that began at 40 just meant that I became more selective about how I use my time. When you're younger, you say yes to almost everything. Going out, staying out late, buying more, working late, socialising with groups of people, some of whom you think are total pillocks. For my American viewers, that is British slang for an idiot. You say yes mostly to please other people and so you don't get left out, and also to keep up with everyone else. But there comes a point when you start asking, is this actually adding anything to my life? And the answer is usually no. So you stop and you start removing things from your life instead. And it's not because you've given up, it's because you've started to value your time more and you don't want to waste any of it. It's far too precious, especially now at 65. Hell, it feels like it's ticking by far too quickly. So I really do not want to waste it just wandering aimlessly around shopping centres and supermarkets. If I need something now, I'll make a list and I'll buy it online, preferably to save as much time as I can and to use my time a lot more efficiently and wisely. And if I do go shopping, which I often do with my wife, to Newcastle, for example, or down to London, I make it an event, a day trip to a new city, to have new experiences with a really nice lunch thrown in. I don't care about having the latest gadget. I'd much rather have something of quality that lasts, like this watch that my mum and dad bought me for my 40th birthday. And I found myself walking away from things that used to take up a lot of my time. And I think this is where it's easy to get confused. You assume that because something no longer excites you, you must have lost your joy in it. That is simply not true. I just think you've stopped confusing excitement with contentment. Excitement is buying something new. Contentment is not wanting it in the first place. Excitement is checking your phone every few minutes. Contentment is turning it off or keeping it on silent all the time. Excitement is another busy day ahead with your calendar full of stuff. Contentment is having nowhere you need to be, with plenty of time to putter around at home and just ease yourself into the day. For years, I have to admit this, I chased excitement. I didn't realise this. It always fades. So I kept chasing the next thing. And the next, and the next, and the next. But after 40, something changed. As I got older, I realised that a quiet morning, a good walk, baking a loaf of sourdough bread can leave you feeling far more satisfied than any shopping trip ever will. And it'll definitely make you feel more satisfied than buying another thing to fill up your house with clutter that you don't really need. And it'll definitely make you a lot more satisfied than hanging out with people you don't give a shit about. I wonder, have I actually lost my curiosity, or has it simply moved to different things? Well, the more I think about this, the more I realise I have not lost my curiosity. It has moved. I don't think you stop being curious because you're 65. I just think you become much harder to impress. Of course I'm still curious, but it's just different now. This YouTube channel is a perfect example. I'm curious about topics and title structures and clickable thumbnails and hooks and video pacing. And recently I've been fascinated by AI. And it's not because I'm trying to keep up with the young kids. It's because I genuinely want to understand it and how it can help me to save time. Because remember that, at 65, saving time is one of the most important things you can do so that you can spend it wisely, differently, and doing things that really do interest you. And then there's my sourdough bread. Well, I never expected that making a loaf of bread would become so satisfying. And not because it's bread, but because I'm learning about new things. I'm learning about flour blends, I'm learning about hydration percentages, I'm learning about proofing time. So yes, I am still curious, but it is very different now than when I was younger. I haven't completely lost my interest in everything. I'm just much more careful about where I allocate that interest and the time. Is the same true for you? Maybe you don't care about some things the way you once did, but maybe you now love your garden, or spending time with your grandkids, or spending time walking in nature, or maybe you cook sourdough bread too. I've read in the comments that some of you love reading books, or maybe just simply sitting with a cup of coffee at your favourite cafe, watching those poor old rats still running their endless race. And you know that you don't need to be anywhere else. That isn't losing interest. That's discovering what's worth your attention. When you're young, your attention is pulled in every direction. Everything shouts, "Look at me, buy me, try me, you need this, you need that." But as you get older, you start choosing what deserves your attention and eliminating as much of the things that don't. That is one of the great freedoms of getting older, isn't it? For the first time in your life, you stop living by default to someone else's rules, and you start living by choice on your very own terms. There are some questions that always need answers. If you're not losing your joy of life and you're not losing your curiosity, then what the hell is actually going on? Well, what if this isn't something to fear? What if it's one of the quieter gifts of getting older? Because when you stop chasing everything, you finally have time to notice what really matters in life. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I chased relentlessly. Money, stuff, promotions, responsibility, awards, accolades, recognition. I kept thinking with each of those milestones, I would get more excitement, I'd be even happier. I kept putting my ladder against the wall and I'd climb up to it, and when I got to the top rung, there was another wall waiting for me. It was 44 when it finally dawned on me. I had been putting my ladder on the wrong wall. It took the death of my dad to make me realise that simple thing. Now, I'm not saying excitement is a bad thing. Of course it isn't. You need things to look forward to. But I've learned that excitement, well, it comes and goes. And inner peace, well, that goes much deeper. So if you've been worrying like I once did, that you don't enjoy the things that you used to do, don't automatically assume you've lost interest in life. Maybe you get contentment in different ways now, like I do. I don't think you stop loving life after 60, but you do stop loving the noise and the chase and buying crap that doesn't last. And you definitely stop trying to impress people who aren't thinking about you anyway, and you stop trying to be polite to people you don't really like. And not just that, you stop believing that more is better. And somewhere along your journey to this point in your life, you discover that a good walk down by the river, or a quiet morning in conversation with your loved ones, or reading a good book when you sat in your favourite chair, or baking a loaf of bread you made yourself from your own sourdough starter, that can give you so much more satisfaction than all the things you spent decades chasing. So if you've lost interest in some of the things you used to love, don't be too quick to think you've lost part of yourself. You've simply outgrown the person you used to be. And if that's true, then maybe this isn't a loss at all. Maybe it's progress. Because surely the goal in life was never to keep chasing the next thrill to the absolute bitter end. It was to build a life where you no longer needed a thrill. What are your thoughts? Share your story. It might inspire someone to take action. And if this video resonated with you, watch this one next. It's about why time seems to be flying by insanely fast. Thanks for watching. See you next time.